Listen carefully. You weaken your life every time you explain it. You give strangers access. You give their opinions power. This audiobook is about taking it all back. Your privacy, your peace, your direction, your strength. Because the truth is simple. The less people know about you, the more control you have over your life. When you stay quiet, you become unpredictable. When you become unpredictable, you become powerful. This is the power of private growth. Growth no one sees, growth no one interrupts, growth no one can sabotage. Starting today, you stop telling people what you're doing. You show them when it's done. Chapter 1. Stop announcing your life. You talk too much. That's the problem. That's the leak. That's the reason your life feels stuck, slow, or constantly interrupted. Every time you speak too soon, you give away the energy you need to actually build. Every time you announce a plan, you feel a surge of dopamine, an artificial reward before you've earned anything. You get the feeling of progress without the reality of progress, and that's the trap. That's the cycle you must break, starting now. Because here's the truth. Silence keeps your energy. Talking leaks it. Say it again in your mind. Silence keeps your energy. Talking leaks it. You need to hear it until it becomes instinct. When you announce your goals, people react. Some smile. Some doubt. Some pretend to support you while quietly hoping you fail. And some, without even knowing it, drain your momentum with questions, opinions, and unnecessary pressure. It's not their fault. It's not even malicious, but it happens every time you seek validation instead of progress. And listen carefully. You have a choice, a simple one. You can keep talking and feel good for 5 minutes, or you can stay quiet and change your life for real. That's the key. You don't need their permission to build. You don't need their applause to move forward. You don't need their understanding to grow. Your life moves when you move, not when you talk about moving. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They believe sharing a goal makes them accountable, but accountability without discipline collapses. Talking can't replace training, announcing can't replace action, and hype can't replace habit. Remember this the next time you feel the urge to update someone. You're not looking for accountability, you're looking for approval. And approval is the enemy of growth. People drain your momentum when you talk too soon. Not because they're bad, but because their opinions enter your mind, challenge your certainty, and weaken your focus. When you speak, you allow doubt to walk through the door. But when you stay silent, you keep that door locked. You have a plan? Good. Build it first. Prove it with results. Protect it long enough to give it a real chance. That's the discipline. That's the separation. Not everyone needs to know what you're doing. Not everyone deserves access to your process, and you don't owe anyone an explanation. Here's what actually happens when you stop announcing your life. Your confidence grows because it's no longer dependent on reaction. Your focus sharpens because you're no longer juggling conversations, opinions, and judgments. Your discipline strengthens because you're no longer chasing validation. Your mind gets quiet, and your goals finally have room to breathe. This is why people who talk the most achieve the least. They confuse words with work. They confuse identity with effort. They confuse I want with I will. You're not here to want. You're here to build. And builders don't talk, they work. Think of the build first, speak later rule as armor. It protects your ideas from negativity. It protects your momentum from distraction. It protects your mind from unnecessary noise. And most importantly, it protects your discipline from emotional interference. You don't need the world to cheer for you. You don't need the world to understand you. You don't need the world to validate your timeline. You only need your silence, your focus, and your discipline. The world will understand when it sees the results. Not before, never before. But let's be honest, breaking the habit of talking is uncomfortable. You're used to announcing things because it feels productive. You're used to sharing because it feels exciting. You're used to telling people because it feels like progress. But progress isn't excitement. Talking isn't progress. Progress is progress. And progress happens in silence. This chapter is your reset. This is where you reclaim your energy from other people's opinions. This is where you reclaim your focus from unnecessary conversations. This is where you reclaim your life from the noise you created. Because silence is not passive. Silence is strategic. Silence is disciplined. Silence is power. You have a choice. You can stay loud and stay stuck, or stay silent and move forward. That's the key. Let's talk about momentum. Momentum is fragile. It's small at first. It's vulnerable at first. It grows slowly. And if you talk too soon, you crush it before it has a chance to build strength. This is why your best ideas die. Not because they're bad, but because you expose them too soon. They can't survive the weight of other people's opinions. They can't survive the pressure of premature expectations. They can't survive the noise. You don't talk to protect the goal. You don't talk to protect the momentum. You don't talk to protect yourself. Because when you talk, you lose clarity. When you talk, you lose power. And power is the one thing you must never give away. Your silence creates mystery. Your silence creates focus. Your silence creates authority. People respect the person who moves quietly and delivers loudly. Nobody respects the person who announces loudly and delivers nothing. Repeat the rule. Build first, speak later. Say it again. Build first, speak later. This rule will change your life if you let it. And here's your first action step. For the next 30 days, keep your plans to yourself. No announcements, no hints, no explanations. Just work, just discipline, just execution. And watch how your internal strength grows. Watch how your emotional control strengthens. Watch how your mindset shifts. Because when you stop talking, you start doing. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You don't need their validation. You need your discipline. You need your focus. You need your silence. That's all. Repeat the phrase, silence keeps your energy. Talking leaks it. This chapter is your beginning, your reset, your recalibration, your return to discipline. You're learning to protect your progress. You're learning to safeguard your momentum. You're learning to build without noise. You mastered the foundation. Now it's time to guard what matters. Chapter 2. Privacy is a shield, not a secret. People misunderstand privacy. They think privacy means hiding. They think privacy means fear. They think you're running from something. They're wrong, completely wrong. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is protection. Privacy is strength. Privacy is your shield. You keep things private because you're building something that deserves protection. You keep things private because you're growing in a direction the world won't understand yet. You keep things private because you don't need noise, opinions, or interference slowing you down. And here's the truth the modern world hates. You don't owe anyone access to your life. You don't owe anyone explanations. You don't owe anyone updates. You don't need to justify your routines, your habits, your changes, or your choices. You don't need their permission to evolve. That's the key. Privacy is a boundary. Privacy is a filter. Privacy is a discipline. It's not about hiding. It's about guarding. Say this line in your mind. You are not hiding. You are guarding. Repeat it again. You are not hiding. You are guarding. You guard your peace. You guard your progress. You guard your emotional space. Because without those three, you cannot grow. You cannot transform. You cannot climb to the next level of your life. The people who misunderstand your privacy are usually the same people who would misuse your openness. They want access to your thoughts, your plans, your struggles, not to help you, but to judge you, compare themselves to you, or feel better about their own lack of direction. And you need to understand this.
Giving people access is a form of energy exchange. Every detail you reveal is energy you lose. Every piece of your future you explain is energy you give away, and you can't afford that anymore. You have a choice, a simple one. Guard your progress or let others dilute it. Protect your momentum or let others drain it. Strengthen your discipline or allow others to interrupt it. You know which direction leads to growth. You don't keep things private because you're insecure. You keep them private because you respect your mission. You respect your mind. You respect your process. You choose not to expose something that's still developing, because developing things are fragile, and fragile things need protection, not exposure. Think about the most powerful structures in the world. They're built quietly. They're built away from crowds. They're built piece by piece, intentionally, silently. Only once
they're complete does the world get to see the final form. Your life is the same. Your discipline is the same. Your growth is the same. Privacy is the environment where transformation becomes possible. You need quiet. You need space. You need separation from noise. You need distance from opinions. You need the freedom to make mistakes without an audience. You need the freedom to change your mind without being questioned. That's the power of private growth, and you deserve that power. Most people announce everything because they fear being misunderstood. They fear judgment. They fear silence. They fear being overlooked. But that fear is misplaced. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. It's about power. It's about protecting the strongest version of yourself before it's fully ready to face the world. Let's make this clear. Privacy is not isolation. Privacy is intention. Privacy is control. Privacy is choosing what enters your mind and what stays outside of it. When you are private, you are selective. You decide who gets access. You decide who gets information. You decide who gets close. That is power. That is self-mastery. That is emotional control. And let's talk about emotional control. When people know too much, they can influence your emotions. They can trigger you. They can distract you. They can manipulate you. They can plant doubt in your mind without even trying. But when your life is private, nobody knows what to target. Nobody knows what to question. Nobody knows what to interfere with. Privacy makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability makes you strong. Think about how people operate. They analyze patterns. They judge your moves. They react to your decisions. They try to shape your thought process. But when you're private, they have nothing to analyze, nothing to judge, nothing to react to. Your life becomes untouchable. Your mind becomes untouchable. Your path becomes untouchable. That's why privacy is a shield. It blocks the unnecessary. It blocks the noise. It blocks the negativity. It blocks the opinions you never asked for. And once those distractions disappear, your focus sharpens. Your pace increases. Your discipline strengthens. Your decisions become clearer because you're finally building without interference. You have a choice. Keep explaining yourself or protect your evolution. Keep justifying your steps or move quietly with confidence. Keep looking for approval or learn to approve yourself. That's the key. In this chapter, you must understand one thing. Privacy is not hiding. It's about honoring your growth. It's about giving yourself the environment required to become the person you're trying to be. You cannot transform under a spotlight. You cannot evolve with an audience watching. You cannot rebuild yourself while begging for validation. You need quiet. You need distance. You need intention. You need discipline. So here's your instruction. Choose 3 areas of your life to keep private starting today. Your next goal, your next move, your next improvement. 3 things. No explanations, no announcements, just action, just discipline, just progress. And watch what happens. Your confidence will rise, your clarity will increase, your emotional control will strengthen, because you're no longer leaking your power through conversation. Repeat it again. You are not hiding, you are guarding. You're guarding your future. You're guarding your peace. You're guarding your discipline. And that discipline will reshape the rest of your life. You mastered privacy as protection. Now it's time to understand where real growth truly happens. Chapter 3. Your growth doesn't need witnesses. Growth is not a performance. You don't need an audience. You don't need applause. You don't need people watching you take every step. In fact, the moment you start performing your growth, you stop living your growth. This chapter is simple. Your transformation is real only when it happens in silence. Not broadcasted, not filmed for validation, not narrated for attention. Just lived, just practiced, just earned. Growth is personal. Growth is internal. Growth is invisible until it isn't. And you need to accept this truth. Most of your progress will happen without anyone noticing. That's not a failure. That's not a punishment. That's how transformation works. The world sees the results, not the repetition. The world sees the strength, not the struggle. The world sees the discipline, not the doubts. They see the final chapter of a story you wrote in private, and that's the way it should be. You have a choice. You can try to look like you're growing, or you can actually grow. That's the key. Because here's what people don't tell you. The moment you let someone watch you grow, you give them power over how fast or slow you move. Their opinion creeps into your decisions. Their judgment slips into your momentum. Their doubt mixes with your discipline. Suddenly, your growth isn't yours anymore. It's a negotiation. That's why your growth doesn't need witnesses. When you grow privately, you grow purely. You grow without distortion. You grow without pressure. You grow without expectations. Think of the most powerful transformations in life. Muscle grows in silence. Healing happens in silence. Confidence builds in silence. Discipline forms in silence. The most important changes happen internally long before they ever become visible externally. You're becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone calmer, someone more disciplined. And that version of you doesn't need an audience cheering you on. They need habits, consistency, and focus. People love to say, show your work. But the truth is, you're not building for show. You're building for strength. You're building for stability. You're building for mastery. You don't need witnesses for that. You need commitment. Here's the mistake most people make. They try to measure their growth by the reactions of others. They try to validate their progress through likes, comments, and compliments. They want people to say, you've changed, or I'm proud of you, or you're doing well. But real transformation doesn't wait for feedback. Real transformation doesn't need applause. Real transformation doesn't need confirmation. You have a choice. Build quietly or stay stuck loudly. That's the key. When you grow without witnesses, you eliminate performance pressure. You're no longer pretending to improve, you're actually improving. You're no longer curating your progress, you're living it. You're no longer chasing admiration, you're chasing mastery. And mastery takes time. Mastery requires patience. Mastery requires ugly days, self-doubt, frustration, and long periods where nothing looks different on the outside. But that's where the best growth happens, deep beneath the surface. Let me give you the truth you've been avoiding. If someone needs to see your growth for it to count, it's not growth, it's performance. And you're not here to perform. You're here to transform. Think about why you want witnesses. You want validation. You want recognition. You want to feel like you're not alone. But none of that will build the discipline you're trying to create. None of that will strengthen the identity you're trying to form. It's not about feeling seen. It's about becoming solid. It's not about showing progress. It's about earning progress. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about becoming undeniable. When you train in silence, you become someone no one can predict. When you evolve privately, you become someone no one can interfere with. When you grow without witnesses, you grow without limits. Your new habits,
You don't need to announce them. Your new mindset, you don't need to justify it. Your new direction, you don't need approval for it. You don't need permission from anyone to become the person you're meant to be. Real growth is boring. Real growth is repetitive. Real growth is slow. And that's exactly why it works. Let me tell you something powerful. The most intimidating version of you is the one no one sees coming. The version built in darkness. The version trained through routines no one knows about. The version forged through discipline no one witnessed. That version is unstoppable because no one had the chance to interfere. You have a choice. Keep looking for witnesses or start building your greatness in silence. That's the key. Here's what happens when you stop needing an audience. You stop rushing. You stop seeking shortcuts. You stop comparing. You stop performing. You become grounded. You become focused. You become consistent. This chapter is your reminder. Your growth is your responsibility, not your performance. Your discipline is your proof, not your words. Your progress is your reward, not their reaction. So here's your instruction. Pick one thing, just one, and grow it privately for the next 90 days. A habit, a mindset, a routine, a discipline. No one needs to know. No one needs updates. No one needs explanations. Just you, your effort, and your silence. And watch what happens. Your confidence will rise. Your clarity will increase. Your emotional control will strengthen because you're no longer leaking your power through conversation. Repeat it again. You are not hiding. You are guarding. You're guarding your...
You've mastered why your growth doesn't need an audience. Now it's time to understand why work done quietly always outperforms loud intentions. Chapter 4. Never Tell People What You Do. Part 3. Protect Your Path. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they leak too much energy explaining their goals to people who never deserved to hear them. Every dream has an incubation period, a silent season where it must grow in darkness, away from noise, opinions, and hungry eyes waiting for you to slip. When you talk too much about your plans, two things happen. 1. You satisfy the ego before doing the work. Talking creates a false sense of accomplishment, tricking your brain into thinking you've already progressed. And 2, you invite unnecessary resistance. People will misunderstand, minimize, question, or challenge what you're building, not because they know better, but because your growth threatens their comfort. Silence protects you from both. The power of a quiet work ethic. The strongest people move in silence not because they are hiding, but because they understand the value of uninterrupted momentum. When you work quietly, you reduce emotional distractions. You eliminate external judgment. You keep your focus clean and undiluted. You build confidence through private victories. You create results that speak so loudly no explanation is needed. Your silence becomes your strategy. Your discipline becomes your shield. The moment you should speak. There is only one moment when you should talk. When the work is done. Not when it's beginning, not when it's halfway, not when you feel inspired. When the results are undeniable and your transformation is already real, then, and only then, reveal what you've built. Because results shut down critics. Results silence doubters. Results make explanations unnecessary. Your new rule. From this chapter forward, never explain your vision. Let your life prove it. The world doesn't need to hear what you're planning. It needs to witness who you become. Chapter 5. Don't explain yourself. The strength of unapologetic living. One of the most draining habits people develop is the constant need to justify who they are, what they do, and why they choose their path. Explaining yourself is emotional leakage, a slow, quiet drain of confidence. Strong people don't move through life trying to convince anyone. They move with certainty. Why explaining yourself weakens you. Every time you explain yourself to someone who isn't entitled to an explanation, you hand them power. Power to validate or invalidate your choices, power to influence your direction, power to shake your confidence, power to make you doubt what you already know. But here's the truth. Your life is yours. Your decisions are yours. Your path is yours. No one else has earned a vote. When you constantly explain yourself, you subconsciously say, "Your opinion matters more than my clarity." And that belief ruins people. The freedom of no explanation. Strong people live by a simple law. If it's not harming you, I don't owe you an explanation. You don't need to explain your growth. You don't need to explain your boundaries. You don't need to justify your dreams, distance, goals, silence, or evolution. You are not required to shrink yourself so others feel comfortable. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you feel lighter. Your mind becomes sharper. Your confidence rises. Your discipline strengthens, because you finally stop performing for everyone except yourself. Not explaining creates mystery. When you stop explaining everything you do, people start noticing something unusual. They feel your strength. They see your focus. They respect your boundaries. Some even fear the quiet certainty you carry. Mystery is power. Clarity without explanation is power. Moving without justification is power. Not everyone should understand you. Not everyone is meant to. Your new rule. From today, live your life. Choose your path. Make your moves without commentary. The right people don't need explanations. The wrong people won't accept them anyway. So stop wasting your breath. Your results will speak for you. Chapter 6. Guard your intentions. Move with purpose, not noise. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize this truth. Most people fail because they lack talent. They fail because they leak intention. They scatter their energy. They chase every impulse. They move without direction. And then they wonder why nothing in their life changes. Your intentions are the engine of your future. If that engine is weak, distracted, or unfocused, everything you try to build collapses. This chapter is about protecting that engine, guarding it, sharpening it, directing it with precision. Because without intention, discipline has no target. And without discipline, you have no progress. You have a choice. You decide whether your mind is a weapon or a weakness. You decide whether you walk into each day with clarity or chaos. You decide whether your intentions are firm or fragile. You have a choice, and that choice defines everything. Most people walk through life reacting to comments, reacting to emotions, reacting to pressure, reacting to the expectations of others. But living in reaction kills intention. To build a powerful life, you must flip the script. Stop reacting, start directing. That's the key. Guard your intentions from distractions. Look around you. Distraction is everywhere. It comes disguised as entertainment. It comes disguised as urgency. It comes disguised as just one more scroll. But every distraction has one goal: to steal your intention before you even notice. This is why strong people protect their mental space like a fortress. They say no more often. They cut noise aggressively. They choose silence over stimulation. They choose clarity over comfort. Because they understand something weak people ignore. Your intention is only as strong as the environment you place it in. You must guard it. You must protect it. You must treat it like fuel, because it is. Move with purpose. Purpose doesn't happen by accident. It's a daily commitment. You wake up and decide, this is what I'm doing today. This is why it matters. This is what I will finish. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for approval. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You choose. You act.
you move. That's the difference between drifting and building, between wishing and winning. It's not about feeling ready, it's about being intentional. That's the key. Intention requires boundaries. If you want strong intentions, you must build strong boundaries. Boundaries with people, boundaries with technology, boundaries with your own impulses. You don't need their permission. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify why you protect your focus. Weak people will question your limits. Strong people will respect them. And you enforce them, because you know your life depends on it. The real-world practice. Starting today, decide your daily priorities the night before. Remove one distraction from your environment permanently. Protect the first hour of your day like sacred ground. Choose one intention and finish it fully before starting another. Say no twice as often as you say yes. This is how you create a spine of discipline in your life. This is how intention becomes identity. The transition. You're building something stronger now, a mind that moves with certainty instead of noise, a will that doesn't scatter or break, a direction that doesn't shift with every emotion. You've learned to guard your intentions. Now it's time to build the mindset that protects everything else. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Emotional Distance. There is a kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't react, and doesn't chase validation. It is the strength of emotional distance, the ability to stay calm, still, and strategic when everyone else is chaotic. Most people crumble because they feel everything too loudly. They take things personally. They get triggered by comments. They let moods control their decisions. They let emotions make choices that discipline should make. You're not here to be controlled by feelings. You're here to control the environment inside your mind. That's the key. Why emotional distance matters. When you are easily triggered, you lose power. When you react quickly, you lose leverage. When you let emotions run the show, the world can manipulate you. People think emotional distance means coldness. It doesn't. It simply means you refuse to hand over control of your inner world. You don't have to be harsh. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to fight to prove strength. True strength is quiet. True strength is measured. True strength is controlled. You have a choice. You can let emotions drive you into chaos, or you can train yourself to observe without reacting. Observation over reaction. Awareness over impulse. Discipline over drama. That's the key. You don't need their permission to stay unbothered. People will try to pull you into their storms. They'll provoke you. They'll bait you. They'll test you, not because they're strong, but because they're insecure. When you refuse to react, you expose them. When you stay calm, you disarm them. When you detach emotionally, you protect your peace. You don't need their permission to stay unbothered. You don't need to justify your silence. You don't need to explain why you walk away. You don't owe anyone access to your emotional energy. Most people's lives are a mess because they give their emotions to everyone. Strangers online, friends who drain them, family who guilt trips them, coworkers who push their buttons. You must stop giving out emotional access like it's free. It costs you, it drains you, it weakens you. Emotional distance is how you reclaim that energy. Learning to observe instead of absorb.
Strong people don't absorb every emotion that comes at them. They observe it. They watch the situation. They analyze the behavior. They study the patterns. They respond only when the response matters. Everyone else absorbs the pressure like a sponge, then breaks. But you're learning to stand tall. You're training your mind to slow down. You're learning that emotions are just signals, not commands. You're remembering that you have a choice. When something bothers you, pause. When someone tries to provoke you, pause. When emotions rise up, pause. In that pause is your power. In that pause is your clarity. In that pause is your identity. That's the key. Detach, don't disconnect. Emotional distance is not emotional numbness. It's not shutting down. It's not avoiding life. It's strategic detachment. You can still care about people without letting their mood control yours. You can still work hard without letting stress break you. You can still love deeply without losing yourself. Detachment simply means you remain in control of your reactions. It means you respond with intention, not impulse. It means the world doesn't get to decide how you feel. This chapter is not telling you to become emotionless. It's telling you to become emotionally intelligent, emotionally disciplined, emotionally sovereign. That's the key. The real-world practice. Here is what emotional distance looks like in your daily life. Stop responding immediately. Slowing down your reaction increases your power. Don't take the first interpretation of a situation. People project their insecurity onto you. Don't accept it as truth. Set emotional boundaries. Not everyone deserves a front-row seat to your inner world. Limit your access to chaotic people. Peace is a choice, and sometimes a distance. Repeat this daily. My emotions are signals, not orders. Practice this, and you will notice something powerful. The world stops controlling you. You start controlling yourself. The rising transformation. Every chapter so far has built one thing inside you, a deeper level of self-control. You learn to stay silent. You learn to stop explaining. You learn to guard your intentions. And now you're learning to remain steady in the middle of storms. This chapter gives you something rare, a mind that chooses peace over reaction, a heart that moves with strength, not insecurity. You're becoming unshakable, unreactive, unbothered, unmoved. Now it's time to take this one step further, beyond emotion, beyond validation, beyond the noise.
Chapter 8. Move in silence, deliver in strength. There is a power that most people never experience because they never commit to it. A power that doesn't announce itself, doesn't seek recognition, and doesn't need applause. It is the power of silent execution. Doing the work without broadcasting it, stacking wins without reporting them, becoming stronger without needing anyone to witness the transformation. This chapter is about mastering that power, about learning to move quietly, deliberately, and with unshakable discipline, because loud intentions mean nothing without silent action. That's the key. Silence is a strategy. Most people think silence is passive. They think it means weakness, secrecy, or insecurity. But silence, real silence, is strategic. Silence protects your direction. Silence protects your momentum. Silence protects your identity. Every time you announce your goals, you leak energy. Every time you explain your plans, you open the door to doubt. Every time you look for validation, you lose internal strength. People think they need to speak to feel real. You don't. You become real when you work. You become real when you act. You become real when results show up and speak for you. You have a choice. You can talk about who you want to become, or you can become it quietly. The world pays attention to proof, not promises. Quiet building creates loud results. Strong people don't show their process. They show their transformation. They show the outcome. They show the strength that was forged in silence. Everyone else wants to be seen becoming. They want praise while they're still inconsistent. They want recognition while they're still undisciplined. They want applause before they've earned anything. That is why they stay stuck. That is why nothing changes. That is why they crumble under pressure. Quiet builders are different. They work before they talk. They plan before they post. They discipline themselves before they seek motivation. They live inside the grind instead of broadcasting the grind. Because they understand something life-changing. If the work is real, the results will speak louder than anything you could ever say. That's the key. You don't need their permission to stay private. Privacy is not hiding. Privacy is control. Privacy is ownership. Privacy is power. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your silence. You don't need to justify your focus. You don't need to prove that you're working. Weak people want witnesses. Strong people want results. You don't need their permission to evolve quietly. You don't need their encouragement to build your future. You don't need their approval to reinvent yourself. Every day you move in silence, you reclaim more of your identity. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your direction. You reclaim your self-respect. That's the key. Protecting your momentum. Here's the hidden truth. Momentum dies when exposed to noise. You tell someone your goal, and suddenly their doubt becomes your hesitation. You share your plans too early, and their envy becomes your delay. You reveal your intention before you've built the discipline, and their opinions weaken your foundation. People don't understand momentum. They don't respect it. They interrupt it. This is why you must protect your grind like a sacred ritual. Work alone. Practice alone. Study alone. Improve alone. And when the moment is right, when your results are undeniable, the world will see without you saying a word. Because at that point, you won't need to speak. Your discipline will speak. Your consistency will speak. Your strength will speak. The real-world practice. If you want to master moving in silence, start with these rules. Don't announce goals. Let the goal live inside you until it becomes real. Don't post your progress. Progress is fragile. Protect it. Don't share your struggles with people who can't help you. Don't overshare your wins. Quietly winning is how you stay focused. Focus on one major habit at a time. Silence plus focus equals authority. When you apply these rules for 30 days, you'll notice something shocking. Your discipline gets stronger. Your anxiety gets weaker. Your clarity becomes sharper. Your confidence becomes internal, not borrowed. That's the key. The unpredictability mindset. When you move in silence, something else happens, something people don't expect. You become unpredictable. People can't track you. They can't interfere. They can't sabotage you. They can't slow you down. They can't judge what they can't see. Unpredictability is a weapon. It makes you harder to manipulate, harder to control, harder to undermine. Most people are predictable because they talk too much. They reveal everything, their emotions, their plans, their insecurities, their fears. Silent people are dangerous because no one knows what's coming. And that's exactly who you're becoming. The transition. Silence creates strength. Every chapter up to this point has built your internal foundation. Now this chapter builds your external strategy. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to guard your intentions. You've learned to detach emotionally. And now you're learning the art of moving with quiet power. The next step is even deeper, more demanding, more transformative. If you're ready to become someone whose presence carries weight even when you say nothing, then it's time for the next lesson. Chapter 9. Become the person that doesn't break. There is a version of you that cannot be shaken, a version of you that does not fold under pressure, that does not panic under stress, and that doesn't crumble when life hits hard. A version of you that stands firm even when everything around you is unstable. Most people never meet that version of themselves, not because it isn't there, but because they've never trained for it. They avoid discomfort,
They fear challenge. They seek the easy path. And because of that, they stay fragile. This chapter is about becoming unbreakable. Not hard, not cold, not emotionless, but unbreakable. The kind of person who can take hits, stay focused, and keep moving forward with discipline. That's the key. Pressure reveals strength. Pressure doesn't create weakness, it reveals it. Pressure doesn't destroy discipline, it exposes whether you had any. Pressure doesn't break you, it shows you what you need to strengthen. You have a choice. You can hide from pressure or you can train under it. Every time you face hardship, you're given an opportunity to develop thicker skin, a sharper mind, a calmer heart, a stronger backbone. But most people run. They avoid discomfort, then wonder why they stay weak. They break at the smallest inconvenience, then complain about life being unfair. To become the person that doesn't break, you must stop running from life. You must meet challenges head on. You must stand firm when the world expects you to collapse. Pressure is not the enemy. Your avoidance is. That's the key. Stop telling yourself the weak story. Everyone has a story they tell themselves when things get difficult. I don't deserve this. This always happens to me. I can't handle it. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. You must kill that story because that story is killing your strength. Strong people don't feed weakness. They don't narrate their suffering. They don't talk themselves out of discipline. They repeat different lines. This is temporary. I've handled worse. I can take it. I don't break. I move forward anyway. Your self-talk is the foundation of your resilience. If your words are weak, your mind will be weak. If your words are powerful, your mind will be powerful. You don't need their permission to rewrite your story. You don't need anyone to validate your toughness. You don't need applause to stay consistent. The person who doesn't break is built internally first. Discipline makes you unbreakable. Mental toughness is not a mystery. It is the byproduct of discipline. Discipline in your habits, discipline in your emotions, discipline in your responses, discipline in your environment. When you practice discipline every day, you train your mind to withstand pressure. You teach your body that discomfort is not danger. You build a base of consistency that stress cannot shake. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear. It's not about feeling strong, it's about choosing strength when you feel weak. You have a choice. Every day you choose whether you're building toughness or fragility. Consistency is toughness. Avoidance is fragility. Discipline is armor. Excuses are cracks. That's the key. Embrace the weight. Don't escape it. Most people think strength means avoiding weight. Real strength comes from carrying it.
Carry responsibility. Carry difficulty. Carry discipline. Carry the pressure of your own standards. The more you carry, the more you can handle. The more you avoid, the weaker you become. Life won't get easier. You will just become stronger if you let yourself be strengthened. The gym doesn't get lighter. You get stronger because you keep showing up. Life works the same way. Every challenge is a weight. Every setback is a rep. Every test is an opportunity to grow. If you escape the weight, you escape the growth. And you're not here to escape. You're here to rise. Real-world practice. Becoming unbreakable. Start with these rules. Don't avoid discomfort. Walk toward what you fear. Finish what you start, even when motivation dies. Control your reactions. Nothing breaks you unless you give it permission. Build routines that challenge you. Toughness is repetition. Repeat daily. I don't break. I adjust. Practice these long enough and you will feel it.
your mind tightening, your emotions calming, your reactions slowing, your discipline sharpening. This is how the unbreakable version of you is built. Not through comfort, through controlled struggle. That's the key. The transformation rising. Look at who you are becoming. You've learned to stay private. You've learned to guard your intentions. You've learned emotional distance. You've learned to move in silence. And now you are learning to withstand pressure like steel. You're not the same person you were when you started this audiobook. You're calmer. You're stronger. You're more disciplined. You're harder to provoke and impossible to intimidate. And now it's time for the final evolution, the chapter that ties every lesson together. Chapter 10. Live unreachable. Build a life they can't touch. There is a level of strength where nothing shakes you, a level of discipline where no one can pull you off your path, a level of self-respect where people's opinions lose all power over you. This is the final stage. This is where you become unreachable. Unreachable to drama, unreachable to manipulation, unreachable to emotional chaos, unreachable to the noise of ordinary people living ordinary lives. Not because you isolate yourself, but because you elevate yourself. This chapter is about building that elevated life, a life so grounded in discipline, clarity, and purpose that no outside force can derail you. That's the key. The unreachable mindset. To live unreachable, you must change the way you think, not slightly, completely. You stop thinking like someone who seeks approval. You start thinking like someone who sets the standard. You stop thinking like someone who reacts to life. You start thinking like someone who directs life. You stop thinking like someone waiting for perfect conditions. You start thinking like someone who creates them. Unreachable people don't operate from emotion. They operate from clarity, from structure, from principle. They know who they are. They know what they stand for. They know where they're going. And because of that, the world has less influence on them. You have a choice. You can live pulled by everything around you, or you can live anchored by everything within you. That's the key. Control your inner world completely. Living unreachable begins inside, because the world can only destabilize you if it can reach you emotionally. If you are reactive, you're reachable. If you need validation, you're reachable. If you seek permission, you're reachable. If you expose your insecurities, you're reachable. To become unreachable, you must build an inner world that is stable, clean, and disciplined. No clutter, no chaos, no emotional storms dictating your decisions. You get up with discipline. You move with intention. You speak less. You reflect more. You stay calm when others panic. You stay focused when others drift. Your inner world becomes your fortress, and the world outside loses the power to invade it. That's the key. Build a life with boundaries. Unreachable people set boundaries so strong they become part of their identity. Here's the truth. You can't be unreachable if you let everyone in. You can't be unreachable if you're available to everyone's emotions. You can't be unreachable if you break your own rules. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are filters. They keep the wrong energy out and the right focus in. You decide who gets access to you. You decide what gets your attention. You decide which battles you fight. You decide which opinions matter. Usually, none. You don't need their permission to protect your life. You don't need to explain your priorities. You don't need to justify your silence. That's the key. Make your routine impossible to interrupt. Your life becomes unreachable when your routine becomes non-negotiable. Most people's routines are fragile. One bad mood breaks it. One distraction destroys it. One opinion derails it. Not you. You train your discipline till your routine becomes iron. You wake up at the same time.
You do the work regardless of emotion. You eliminate distractions before they begin. You protect the first and last hour of your day. You commit to the habits that build your future. People who live reachable let everything interrupt them. People who live unreachable let nothing interrupt them. Your routine becomes the armor around your life. That's the key. Your growth must outpace their access. If people can still disturb you, it means they have too much access. If they can pull you into drama, it means your standards aren't high enough. If they can shake your confidence, you haven't outgrown their influence yet. Growth destroys reachability. Once you rise above someone's emotional level, they can no longer affect you. You don't argue, you don't defend, you don't get pulled down. You simply exist at a higher frequency. The people who once had power over your emotions lose it. The environments that once drained you no longer matter. The comments that once triggered you fade into background noise. You become unreachable not by isolating, but by elevating. That's the key. The real-world practice, living unreachable. To live unreachable, adopt these practices immediately. Stop giving emotional access to inconsistent people. Protect your priorities as if your life depends on them, because it does. Respond slowly, think deeply, act intentionally. Stay off the stage of public validation. Repeat daily, I am in control, I am focused, I am unreachable. Live this way long enough and you will notice the shift. You no longer fold. You no longer panic. You no longer chase approval. You no longer let people pull you out of character. Your life stabilizes. Your mind sharpens. Your path clears. This is the highest form of discipline. The final integration. You reached the final chapter for a reason, not to finish the book, but to become the person this book was shaping you into. Look at what you've built. Silence, discipline, emotional distance, private growth, unbreakable power, unshakable identity. This final chapter is not the end. It is the beginning of a new version of you. Focused, controlled, strategic, private, disciplined, unreachable. Now you are ready for the final evolution. The life where nothing can pull you off your path, nothing can weaken your direction, nothing can break your mind. Because now you live unreachable. And that's the key. Remember this. Every time you speak too soon, you give people a chance to slow you down. Every time you explain yourself, you hand them the power to judge, doubt, or distract you. And every moment you choose privacy, silence, and controlled emotional discipline, you grow without interference. You build without noise. You evolve without interruption. This is the power of private growth. No announcements, no explanations, no permission. Let your work speak. Let your results echo. Let your transformation be the only thing people ever see. Starting today, make your life your proof. Make your discipline your identity. Make your silence your strength. And now the challenge is simple. Stop telling people what you do. Show them what you've become.